Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is a Battlefield 5 commentary. This is the new map, Solomon Island, added to the Pacific chapter of the game with the 6.0 patch. And you might be wondering, Chris, did that patch bring a weapon tuning to get rid of the mighty Nambu Type 2A? And the answer is, no, it did not. So that gun is still ridiculous. And this map was advertised as Close Quarters. Close Quartered map. CQB. So I was very excited. And my first gameplay on this map, I used the Type 2A. And I'm going to be commentating that gameplay, but it's a bit too long for the moment, so I picked this one instead. So I could show you my first experience here, but what I can tell you guys, having played this quite a lot now, this is not a close-quartered map at all. There are instances where close quarters can take place if you're aggressive enough and if your team's good enough and if the enemy team is dumb enough, but fundamentally, this is a mid to long-range map at almost every conceivable moment. Unless you run a shotgun and are aggressive and get 50 deaths, this is literally a mid-range map. I'm using a goddamn light machine gun because it's a mid-range map, and I couldn't be more disappointed, because what the map is in reality, if they'd have advertised it correctly, it's World of Tanks with mid-range gunfights, and I'm a hip-firing SMG Call of Duty noob to Battlefield, so for me, mid-range and long-range are something I've never really done. And one of the cool things about this map, as much as I think it's absolute cancer and don't really like it, is it's teaching me to play distances I didn't think I'd play. So I'm gradually learning how to ADS, how to engage at longer ranges, things of that nature. One of the things that's kind of hindering it is the fact that I don't like tap-firing guns, and in Battlefield's history, the best way to be accurate in these games was always to tap-fire. It was to feather the trigger. I'm capable of doing it, but I'm too lazy a lot of the times, and I like just holding the trigger and trying to control the recoil. And it really doesn't work on this, because the guns have been changed at this moment to not have recoil, like just then, that was no recoil, and I was feathering the trigger probably then. But every so often they get random recoil, so you'll go from it being perfect to it not being perfect, and it's confusing. And instead of having reactive, reliable recoil and a pattern that you can learn, so you can learn the gun, get good with the gun, instead, they've turned the recoil off for the Christmas noobs, and the recoil turns up every so often. And one of the changes that's coming to the game is going to be more recoil, which I think is a good thing. I prefer no recoil personally, because to me, it should be who has the better aim and the quicker reflexes and the hand-eye coordination. Recoil should be secondary in an ideal world, which is why I'm a big fan of Call of Duty, because most of those guns in that series don't have a lot of recoil, and Battlefield always did. But in this game, I feel like the skill ceiling in this game is about understanding the range of tool of your gun, so where you want to be, and getting into that position to be effective. And if that involves controlling recoil and learning the guns, I think it's a great idea. I don't want some guy laid on his belly to put me down with an STG at light machine gun range when I'm using the bar. And you're going to see that in this gameplay, and it's very frustrating because it just feels at times like the STG is the best gun in the game. And ironically enough, it's a gun I don't have access to, so I can't even see whether or not it's placebo or if that gun really is that good. But it's that thing of, if I can make people I get into gunfights have to control their weapon as much as I have to control my weapon, I'm all for that, and I'm looking forward to that change. But the first objective on Breakthrough is actually pretty close quartered. It's my favourite part of the map. I love that early push because you can be very aggressive and you can do a lot of counter shooting. This part here is a mess. This is a massive open area with barely any cover outside of these areas where people sit around with shotguns. The reason I'm not rushing into A right now, even though I want to, is because they always set up in there in weird places, and if you don't run into a shotgun in a building, you get murked by a sniper or a tank that's sat at the back. This map affords far too many tanks for both teams. I think the attacking team gets 4, the defending team gets 2, and the tanks in the Pacific kill you faster than any gun ever will, and they're almost completely immune to being fought back at because they've been buffed to an extent that you can't hurt them enough. However, their weak point sweet spot has been changed in the patch, so they should take a little bit more damage, and on this particular Tides of War, we're going to get access to a rocket launcher. I'm really looking forward to seeing if the rocket launcher is going to even the score, because if I can take the tanks out, like there's a tank just there, and the only thing I have is this, and I'm new to this tool, guys, I don't really get what this does. It did 16 damage to the vehicle, which is actually pretty high. That's higher than a Panzerfaust sometimes. So I try my best to help when I see a vehicle, but fundamentally, I'm not going to be charging vehicles with a lunge mine, because to me that's just stupid. It's funny, it works, I've seen a lot of people do it, sometimes it's buggy. But I've just got on Assault Class the the Piat, and the Piat seems ludicrously good. I'm very happy with the Piat. I'm looking forward to learning that. There's a guy to my right now. Do you notice on the map this guy has a diamond instead of an arrow telling me what direction he's facing? That's one of the new changes in the patch. They've taken away the directional information on the map on the 3D spotting. This is something that we never needed, never wanted, and shouldn't have existed. It was too much. Watch this. Too much information. I still got it, boys. Didn't kill him, but that was a good throw, considering I carry smokes exclusively, so I've never really had to throw like that. That's all those years of playing Time Splitters and stupid games like that and doing crazy things with grenades. That's all that COD 4 experience right there. But we got lucky on this team because the enemy team started with lower numbers. The teams did fill later on, and they did not hold this segment. The segment you just saw me do, where I was only on A and you never saw B, that is one of the hardest parts of this map to take because it's so wide and the enemies can easily take back the other segment. It's kind of frustrating. The flag coming up here, A here, is one of my favourite segments of the map, but it's very intermittent. If you get a team of people on the right-hand side on those islands shooting you with rifles and LMGs, this bit can be a nightmare. If you don't have a team using smoke, this bit can be a nightmare. Fundamentally, this push after this B on the next point is so bullshit and stupid. It just leads to these awesome, awful moments. And I don't understand why anybody would like the segment coming up. I don't get who it's for. It must be for tank drivers, because there's this super linear 3-lane path that leads to a ton of jungle and an area where you have to cap a hill, and it's almost impossible to see people the whole fucking time. I don't know how anybody sees anybody in this game. I just find it to be very difficult. And then while you're doing that, because there's 3 lanes, there's a river on like each side for the Navy to get some use out of the boats. They can retake A while you're doing it, so it leads to these massive attritions. And what you'll find is You'll get to a segment like this, and I'm using the bar. The bar's not meant to be used this close, in my opinion. It suffers from... Its hipfire can be good, and you will win fights, but I want a submachine gun for this, and I don't have one. I'm getting stuck and all, I'm getting mad. But once we get past this part, it's all long range. It's long range with a couple of areas that might be close, so you need range coming up, and if you don't have it, you're going to have to put yourself in bad situations. And then once you get all the way into the camp, you could do with a close range weapon again, but you don't really have one, because you're using a long range one because all the engagements have been so long. And then they start taking this back and you come back with this long range weapon, and it's a battle of all these different ranges, and on paper, conceptually, it probably sounded like a really cool idea. Everyone can do something, there's ranges for every type of playstyle. But in reality, you pack a submachine gun and you're effective in 2 parts of the map, and everything else you get outclassed. You pack something longer range, you're effective in 3 areas of the map, and then as soon as you get to the bits that are important, you're worthless. And it doesn't matter what you choose at the end of the day, fundamentally, because the tanks are the real reason why anybody wins or loses. If you have tanks pushing instead of sitting on the hill like pussies, like they always fucking do, you will win, because you can't stop 4 tanks, they're too strong. However, if the enemy teams are intelligent with their tanks, they can hold you forever. And they shouldn't, because this map is incredibly unbalanced. This should always be an attacker's win. If the defenders win on this map, and it happens a lot, guys, it's because they played better than your team, objectively. They don't have the artillery, they don't have the armour to put up with all the tanks you can put on them if you're good enough. The problem is, most of the people that play this game are playing it to pretend that they're in Iraq or something and be as realistic and as immersed as possible, so they don't do anything. Like, there's so many times when there's a guy in the midst of your team and you shoot at him and you don't kill him and no one puts 1 bullet on him. 1 bullet's all you needed. There's 5 guys and no one shoots him. It's almost like they're paid actors. It's bizarre. And like right now, this is a close quartered area coming up. There's a couple of areas for people to hide and lay down in the foliage, which I really don't like, because it's look at this. How the fuck you meant to see people if they go prone here? They go prone, they've got a type 2A, you're dead in a second, you can't even react. Did I see a guy then? Like, look at him! Look how good he blended in. I'm surprised I even saw that guy. And I get the... Look, watch that. STG, man. Did you see him? I fucking didn't. STG every time. That gun is always killing me. It's frustrating, but what can you do? Anyhow, like, in a moment such as this would be great if I had a sub, because I could be really aggressive, but I'm not good with the bar up close, because it doesn't hit the same. It just takes too much, and you'll notice the left-hand flank here, we've got some X's, my teammates just died. They're pushing us on the left-hand flank. If you play this map, guys, you see how all the blues are on the right-hand flank? The left-hand flank is where everybody comes and kills you from behind. The teammates never watch this area. My capturing was dying just then. And that's the area that the guys on the right should be watching, but they're not, so they're shooting me when I'm watching the left. And this leads to those wonderful moments of you can't watch everything, so you're reliant on other people to do something. And admittedly, we're on a good team here, and there are some people reviving, there are some people, applying themselves, and I can't really complain too much. But for every game where you get people like this, you have people that, like, I've got footage of a guy in my squad sat on a roof, 3 flags back, sniping like the longest rifle shot in the history of mankind, not killing anybody. And every time we respawned, we had to spawn on him and run across 2 islands, and I got so pissed off that I changed to medic just to smoke on him so he couldn't shoot anything. I used all my smokes, ran back off the roof, picked up ammo just to smoke him again, and then eventually somebody shot him. And I was really, really happy at that person. Like, you wouldn't believe the things that people do. I was in a gameplay with a team of 2 assaults and a medic, and they were all like best friends because they had matching clan tags and fanny packs and what have you. And the medic was in the tank the whole game. Our team had 3 medics because now they've released new guns. No one's playing medic outside of those people on the enemy team with a Nambu that murder you instantly. So what happens is your team has no medics, no one's reviving, there's no assistance. So when you do see a medic, they're kind of important. And because of the way the attrition system works, which is to say it's fucking awful, remove it. If you play any other class than medic, you can't be that aggressive unless you don't get hit. And I trade in every gunfight I'm in because I'm rubbish. And it's like right now, if I win this gunfight, I will be punished because I'm the better player, and I will not be able to heal completely unless someone helps me. So when I get into the next gunfight, I don't have full HP, and without full HP, it's not a fair fight. In my mind, for the skill ceiling of this game, which DICE have no ambition to ever make this a skillful game, they want every fucking Tommy no-hands to kill you in the easiest possible way, regardless of how good you are, how good your aim is, and how long you've had on the game. They literally want everybody to be completely even, no recoil, insta-kill fucking weapons outside of, certain ranges when they become ridiculously shit. Like, broken guns added to a game, the vehicles that take absolutely no brain cells to use, everything about the game, sector artillery is literally for bad players to kill good players without having to earn the ability to beat them in a 1v1. The whole game is that, regardless of skill level. And they just don't care. And attrition hurts the player who won the gunfight. And I'll never understand why. Like right now, I'm getting hit from this dude wherever he is. Right now I have half HP. If I get shot by a sniper, I'm instantly dead. It's a one-hit kill because I don't have full life, because I can't press a button and heal, because the classes aren't created equal. And I don't understand who it's for. It forces a medic meta, and they've just given medic the most powerful gun in the game. Like, what do they expect? What do they think is going to happen to the life of their game? I just don't understand DICE, and I never will, because Battlefront 2, they did nothing but shit design, shit design, shit design, shit design, and some of the nerfs and some of the tweaks and some of the patches were fucking ludicrous. It took that game 2 years to stop guns from being absolutely monstrous and outclassing every other gun in the game, and they still do. They've altered them slightly to be a bit more skill dependent, but fundamentally there are guns in that game that are better than every other gun. And I understand that that's just the organic way that games develop. Games will always develop towards a power hierarchy, and their meta will obsess over that, because what happens is the good players find the good guns, they kill the bad players with the good guns, the bad players use the good guns, they kill worse players with the good guns, and then you have an entire culture of people using the same fucking gun. Because you die to it so much, you convince yourself, regardless of how bad or good it is, that it's somehow better than what you're using, because our egos can't take the defeat, so we deflect, and thus we all run around with the same gun. And then everyone complains about everybody running around with the same gun, and it leads to Reddit. So it's just this bizarre combination of factors. But here is the final push on Solomon. This is another area that I think was designed on paper rather than tested, because the idea of this is kind of cool. The problem is, it's way too open. There's a mountainside on the left-hand side that angles up across the river. The river itself is designed to enable your navy to do a really cool flank. The problem is, the enemies can sit a tank on that hill, and nothing will go past there because you can't even shoot it. Like, people have found ways to completely neutralise an entire lane, so the entire funnel that happens here doesn't even matter, because if they set up correctly, this can be a very difficult push. The problem you'll face here with teammates is tank players are so cowardly on this part, they don't just push in. If the tank player like this guy pushes in as far as he has, the entire team can follow him, and it's easy, but they don't do it. And it's awkward here, because there's so many hiding places, there's so many ranges where they can sit, there's so many things and factors, and and it's just like you don't really know where they're going to be because you don't know the map enough, and every team plays differently, every player hides in a different spot. That cliffside on the right is always popular, so I'm going to go over there and try and put some of my bar on the range, but I've not killed anybody right now for like 2 hours and I'm already bored, so instead I'm shooting flares and doing a horrible job, you know, trying to play a support role as I can. And it's just like, can you believe they advertise this as close quartered? Who the fuck is close quartered on this? Like, everyone's in the back with a rifle. Look at it. Have you seen a guy in 15 meters of me? It's just crazy. Like, that guy is pretty close, right? I'll give him props. He was moving. He was running forward and what have you. He got killed for it because that's the way the game is. Guy over here trying to kill our tanks, and does kill our tanks. Somebody steals my fucking kill because why not? I should say somebody helped me get that guy, but fuck that noise. I wanted him. And then the bar, if it had 30 rounds, would be beautiful, but it only has 20, and it's still beautiful, but I can't kill these people because the TTK is so fantastic, so thanks for that one, DICE. But it's just, I don't know, guys. How do you feel about Solomon? How are you finding it? I've played it a lot. I've played it for the last few days, and, like, I can do well on it. I can win on it, but I just don't find it very satisfying because there's too much downtime. There's too many moments where my team isn't doing what it needs to do and I can't actuate any change to make them do things. Like, luckily this is quite an early gameplay, so I'm still quite timid and I don't really know where I am, but looking back, the guy at the top of our table was in a tank. The guy above him, I think he was doing okay. There's the stats for people that care about that kind of thing. It was just not a very exceptional game, you know? It's just that was one of the first games that I won on that map. We lost quite a lot when we first started playing. It was only day one, though, and day one, you can't really judge a map. But from what I've tested so far, guys, and what I've experienced, I get really frustrated with Solomon Island. How do you guys find it? Thank you for watching. You take care now.